This week on Zen and Not Zen, BroTime edition.
But so we call him. We get that taken care of, and I'm outside and I'm smoking cigarettes at the time. And I'm smoking a cigarette in the front yard, like just God damn it, what the fuck, man? How am I moving to Kirkland, fucking Washington, and getting robbed at gunpoint?
How did I survive the streets of Houston?
Exactly. When I moved out of my parents' house, I was living in the 1960 Aldine Westfield area of Texas.
That's always how it is, though.
And it's like nothing happened there, but I have to move to Kirkland and get a gun shoved in my face by a fucking ginger. No offense, Robin. And
dude, man, fuck my wife. Yeah. I don't give a shit about you telling about your fucking friend's name or your ex's name or some shit. Like
you just outed him as a ginger.
Edit that shit out. You know what? We'll fucking leave a mystery. Why you gotta know I'm fucking Reddit, you dick?
BroTime.
Did you guys watch the news when you were kids? Like just parents watching the news?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that, and I remember them being a lot more like individualistic.
Yeah.
Like people had their shticks kind of thing. Like we had this guy in Texas. He was the
they all had their own vibe, like specific vibe, like Cronkite versus
totally. Yeah. There's this guy named Marvin Zindler down in Texas, and he was like a local news guy, Eyewitness News.
Yeah.
And he was like the gonna catch you doing shit guy.
Yeah.
And his big thing was like
Jesse
slime in the ice machine. He was like, this local restaurant failed its test. There were bugs here, and there was slime in the ice machine. And that was his big thing.
Well, it's like, remember, we used to watch the YouTube videos of that Mark Aram, the traffic guy in Atlanta, who was giving the shout-outs when Tribe Called Quest, when Pipe Dog died. He did like an entire, it's like, flip this, Mark.
That was great. I forgot about that.
Yeah, Mark Aram, I think is his name. He did it for Biggie, I think, too. He did a couple of them.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
That was a good video.
Yeah. And it's like, tip of the hat to the people. I get it. It's not offensive. It's not like, secret dirty stuff.
I like when they try to sneak it in, too. So it's just like the crowd that knows. He like stopped.
Oh, yeah.
Stop
No,
he's like,
he's like, do that, that.
Yeah.
Like, no, he was very much like, it was not smooth at all. It was awesome. Yeah, it was very much
culturally fitting.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. I love that. So today we're going to talk about crazy shit that we got ourselves into.
I'm very excited to hear your stories.
My stories?
Both of you. Because I feel like you both have good stories.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's just kind of, for me, I was thinking about this, and it's like more cause and effect. It's like, most of this shit's like, well, what did you think was going to happen?
Well, I think or like, well, so,
unfortunately, a lot of it's like, I took a lot of illegal shit, and it was too much. I mean, that was a couple of them. And I'm like, how many of these do I want to say?
Yeah. I made the joke earlier about statute of limitations, and kind of as a joke and kind of not.
Kind of, yeah.
Well, as a joke, we always, back in the day in high school when we were doing psychedelics for the first time, we always used to joke that we get busted by a cop saying, I saw that tracer. I saw that tracer. I'm like, well, sir, if that's the case.
Yeah, psychedelics were a lot for me in the younger years.
I really did not start doing. I did nothing in high school. I was like still like trying to be a Christian Triscuit kid and just try to go along to get along.
I like Triscuits.
I do too. You can dress them up with anything.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and so like I remember I snuck out one time. My friend Whitney was the complete opposite of me. Like she just was like rebel without a cause. Like, and we were just opposites attract. And we snuck out, and her parents were way more hardcore than mine were because they had Whitney as a daughter, and she had more of a reputation. But I remember we snuck out, and I had gone to her window, and I was with another girl, and I had accidentally left little bottles of alcohol underneath her window, and it was just a one-story house, and she would sneak out her window or whatever. And so we end up going to the house party down the road, and whatever, and then we come back, everything's fine, and then her dad gets up the next morning doing yard work and finds all the bottles like underneath her window. And so I'm still
little airline
asleep
bottles.
So I'm asleep at my house not with the other friend that we went out with, and then I hear the voicemail pick up, and it's her dad, and just being like, I know everything everything and blah, blah, blah. And I fold like a piece of paper. Like I'm like, well, there's nothing to be done here. So I'm giving all the information. And so I literally folded like a piece of paper. I told my mom everything. And then I called Whitney and I was like, Winnie, okay. And she was like, don't even talk. Okay, so here's what we're going to say. This is what we're doing. And she had like the perfect story that would have gotten us out of it. And I was like, it's too late.
I already fucked it up.
Like, this is the kind of friend I was. Like, if there was any sense of any kind of I'm getting in trouble, I'm folding like a piece of paper. So I don't really get out of stuff because my guilt is just so overpowering.
Oh, man, I feel that. It's so funny. My kid was talking to me the other day. My youngest, Harper, she's 13. And I was like, yeah, how's your weekend? She's like, oh, yeah. This weird thing happened. Sophie, one of her friends, and I were walking down the street on the sidewalk, and a little garter snake runs in front of us. They're not poisonous at all, but they're kids. They're afraid of snakes. Sophie got behind Harper and pushed her into the snake. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, no, it's okay. Sophie's fine, but now you've learned something. Sophie is in a place where she will sacrifice you if it comes down to it, right? That's good stuff to know, right? That means if like there was a car driving by, unfortunately, you need to duck out of the way, right? Exactly, right? So
she's in a place where she's gonna sacrifice you. That's such a specific sister place too. I know that. So
that's good.
Oh yeah, but yeah, psychedelics. Younger years for me was definitely got myself into some precarious situations.
Yeah.
In high school, definitely, with drugs and alcohol, things like that. But more so after high school, was when the big stuff started happening for me. But I did start taking psychedelics when I was young, like 16, 17. And it, started off as, just going to take this at a party, and it evolved into let's take acid at school and see what happens with that.
I've never understood the kids that do drugs at school because
I understand that, but acid.
Because it would suck away all the fun of my high trying to be, maybe just because I would be so nervous of getting caught. And
we weren't fooling anybody in high school.
Right, yeah, like maybe I'm just coming at it in a different, incorrect perspective. Yeah. But I'm like, if I had to like actually learn, and I'm like, oh, they probably didn't really care much about paying attention.
I'd show up late smelling like weed. Okay.
Well,
sorry I'm late, sir.
So the way I
never said sir, Mr. Sherbrooke.
Well, the way our school was set up for my senior year, we had block scheduling, and then so like 1, 3, and 5 classes 1, 3, and 5 one day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday,
we had that.
and then 2 courses, right?
So like some days I'd be up at like 10:30 or something.
Totally, right? But like on 2 of those days, I had late arrival and early release my senior year. So I'd get there at like say 9 and leave at noon. I had 2 classes. And so those are the days that I would, and I'm not aggrandizing this. I'm just going to say that I don't like recommend people doing this. This is just a stories. These are all stories we're sharing, right?
Yeah.
So I would wake up. I'd set my alarm for like 6:37, and I'd wake up, take a couple hits of acid, then go back to bed, and then wake up at say 7:30 or something, and just like wake up and I'm like, hey, how's it going?
Why did you put a little makeup?
Right, exactly.
Jesus Christ.
Why did you kiss on the table? That's what I feel like acid's like. It's just a system of a down song on a loop.
Totally. And so I would go to school, and that first class for me was art. I'm like, cool.
Perfect.
Being art, I'm making shit, and then second class was student council class.
Oh, Jesus.
And basically that class
was second peak, and you got a fucking debate with some guy about whether or not you should have fucking Coca-Cola vending machines.
Literally, like our student council class was just a bunch of kids just sitting around doing nothing, right?
That was my marketing class. Totally. Like marketing club. Like
I didn't do shit. Yeah, I didn't do shit either.
I remember one day, one of the times, I didn't do it a lot, but one of the times I was on acid in that class, I'm sitting there in more or less the front row, and I think her name was Miss Majors. She was the teacher, and she was a very like almost Peggy Bundy-esque type, type fashion,
Someone
tight pants and puffy shirts.
The student council class,
exactly.
Sure.
And one day, so this day, I go in there and I'm hitting it. I'm getting there, But I've done this quite a few times.
Do you have your OJ and your Minute Maid OJ? Minute Maid too. That's a brand you would probably go.
That vitamin C,
Yeah, you got to keep that peak.
And I'm in there. She's taking attendance, doing her thing, and I'm looking at Miss Majors, and I'm just ground up, and I'm deep into it now. And I'm trying to drink in what this woman's wearing, and she's probably in her mid 50s, early 60s.
Drink it in.
Okay, so leopard print fluffy high-heeled shoes.
Oh, God, touch those.
Blue spandex, 2 belts.
She is Peggy Bundy.
Right.
Oh
Yeah, and then like a leopard shirt, and then she had like this shawl on, right? And she had this puffy hair, like
This is like 95, 94,
97.
97.
Oh.
Okay.
and
Iconic.
I get so lost in the fact that she's wearing 2 belts and spandex pants. And, like you don't need one belt, let alone
Oh yeah,
2.
the non. Well, see, that's interesting. I mean, in female fashion or just some fashion, where the non-functional decorative belt.
Oh, the entire 2000s were huge belts that were like right under your boobs, no pockets, spandex shorts.
Don't make sense at all.
Doesn't make any sense.
So I leaned over to this girl sitting next to me, Robin, and I'm like, "Hey, is Miss Majors wearing 2 belts?" And she goes, "Yeah, she is." I'm like, "I gotta go. Can I go to the bathroom? I gotta go. I gotta see a nurse. I gotta see somebody, but I cannot do this anymore." And I grabbed it. She gave me a pass or something. I grabbed my shit and I left. And I'm like, I lived right like 5 minutes from home. I could walk there. And so I went home. I just wrote it out
2
there.
belts were...
Like, this 2 belts just broke
went
me.
home and played
Fucking broke me, man.
Streets of Rage 2 on Sega. Fucking figure it out from there.
No, one of my favorite things to do when I was on acid when I was younger was, well, in general, we would just walk bike trails through the neighborhoods and smoke blunts. And that was a lot of fun.
That makes sense to me. I couldn't think of a more stressful place to be on acid than at school.
Yeah. It's not something I would recommend.
Yeah, but I mean, acid's different than mushrooms in that, like... See, the thing is with psychedelics, and I would advise this for any kind of hallucinogen, is be comfortable with your surroundings. And I don't fucking put high school as really even in my peak of bravado, you know, that I could channel. I don't think I'd ever be comfortable enough to want to trip there.
Yeah. I would never do it again.
But I mean, last time when I did acid at that Tool show, I mean, that was a deliberate act again. So it's like, what have we found ourselves in? I'm like, well, I found myself in a fucking situation where I was around 15,000 people on way too much acid. But like, you know, I don't know what the fuck else I was expecting to have happen. I took a bunch of acid before going to a concert. You know, it's like, oh, okay.
Yep.
And like an indoor concert too,
No,
right?
it was a gorge.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense then. Yeah. All right.
I mean, it's still all relative. I mean, it wasn't my A+ choice, but I was so fucking gone. You don't really care.
I mean, it could have been worse. You could have been tripping in the Tacoma Dome. Like that. The acoustics there drive me nuts.
Yeah, bad acoustics, and then you got to hallucinate.
I saw a Kendrick Lamar show in the nosebleeds, and I was like, "This was a waste of money." I can't.
You got to be on the floor.
8 seconds off.
Yeah.
Oh.
You got to be on the floor. You got to be at the 100 level, and closer to the stage. You can't be in the back.
No. Know that now. Good information.
Yeah, there you go. The more you know.
There you go. Fucking rainbows, man. I had an interesting acid experience at a concert. I went to Roger Waters in like '99 down in Texas, and it was an outdoor venue.
I saw that tour. I saw that tour up here.
Yeah, it was great. It was a good show.
The In the Flesh tour, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was on my birthday. The show was on my birthday, and so I had organized some peyote.
Still haven't done that.
It was great. It was a great experience.
Is that colorful? Here it's colorful.
The one I have is like a lime green color.
Well, no, I'm saying that the hallucination.
Well, okay, so let me just unpack this whole thing. Okay. So it was my birthday, and so at this point in time, in '99, I'll divulge this later, so might as well tell you now. I sold drugs for a couple of years, right? That was what I did. Yep. Right. Yeah. I think I'm clear on that. It's been 20 some odd years.
Okay, Jay-Z.
But so while people were coming over to get things from me, I was, hey, it's my birthday. I actually met a guy. It was his birthday. I'm like, oh shit, it's your birthday. He had a bunch of acid. I had a bunch of peyote. So we did a little trade.
Yeah.
And then my roommate had some ecstasy, which is what Molly is now, right?
Right.
So we took a bunch of drugs. Went to the Roger Waters concert. So I took peyote, acid, and ecstasy, and smoked a bunch of weed. So I don't know how peyote was on its own because I've only done it mixed with other things.
Candy flipping SOB.
But
that's
so
the term.
At the Roger Waters concert, there is a song. I don't know if it's called "It All Makes Perfect Sense," but the hook is this very like operatic, choir-esque like. It all makes perfect sense, kind of thing like that.
Probably some of that solo shit, like the non-Pink Floyd
exactly.
stuff.
It's not
like,
Pink Floyd.
We're here for this, Raj.
And I remember being in the field of the outdoor stadium, and I was watching people rain from the sky, Like it was raining people. And I'm out there with my arms extended, crying my eyes out because it did at that moment. It made sense. Every fucking thing made sense. I felt it intrinsically in my bones. Everything made sense. It all worked out,
Waters
right?
Opened the universe up to you.
It was so crazy. And then I don't remember anything until all of a sudden I'm walking on the side of a road in a ditch. And this is in 99. We don't have cell phones.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck? Where am I? And I'm on like, so we have the freeways, and then off the freeways are called feeder roads, and they just run parallel to all the freeways because the South is gigantic. They can do that.
Arizona's got those too.
So I was basically on the feeder road in a ditch, walking about probably 5 miles from the venue.
I'm just like, fucking, I'm gonna keep walking.
It just looked like it made sense, and I was like, I'm out. It's good. And so finally, I get to a place. I call my buddy. My buddy comes, picks me up, and I watched this movie called Brother from Another Planet. And it's one of the craziest movies I've ever watched, and I was still way fucked up. And so the premise of this movie is this alien falls to Earth in like Harlem, and sees a black person, so he becomes a black person. And one of these things that this person can do is fix machines by just touching them. And so he gets a job fixing machines by touching them, but he's trying to like improve humanity, and he watches a guy like molest a woman, so he takes his eye and shoves it into the other guy's eye so he can feel what this... It's a weird fucking movie, but it made sense to me. And I remember I called my older brother at like 4 in the morning. He's living in Indiana, and I'm like, dude, you gotta fucking watch this movie, man. It's the best fucking movie. And I totally sold him on it. He went and found it the next day, watched it, and called me, and he was like, you're a fucking asshole.
What's wrong with you?
You are a fucking asshole.
So good. Aaron's all pissed off and shit.
He still brings it up. He still brings it up, dude. It still does. It's
awesome.
fucking great. Oh, I love it so much, man. But yeah, so like, I don't know. When I was a kid, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I got some stories about more recent shit, but like when I was a kid, especially in that life, we did some stupid shit.
Yeah.
You know, put ourselves in weird positions, you know, situations to get ourselves out of. Luckily, you know, nobody in my immediate family of what we were doing ever went to jail.
Yeah.
Or got seriously hurt. But I mean, fucking kids doing that shit, man.
Being just
thousands of dollars and all this shit, you know.
Like, I don't know how that didn't go worse, or that could have been so bad if it just one thing had gone differently.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very much so.
I had a few friends back in high school like that they could just talk their way out of anything, and I am such a bad liar to my own detriment. Like, I can't talk my way out of anything that like that, and it's I don't know if it's an admirable, but I just admire it so much that like they are able to just put their minds in a specific place, and they can just talk their way out of anything. Yeah. Like, you can just live life stress-free.
So
with that kind of confidence.
I was not bullets all the time. Similar story. I was not in the car for this, and these were not friends. These were acquaintances of mine. But they were smoking weed and, you know, having some beers while driving around the car, which is more shit that high schoolers do when you don't have a house. When your friends don't fucking have a house that you go party at, this is kind of what you do. Of course, no one should, but whatever.
Right.
Anyway, they were smoking weed in the car, and the driver was like, "Oh, come on, man, you barely touched your beer." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, my beer." So, like, you know, leans down to, like, you know, go look for it, you know, the classic move. You see where this is going, rear ends a car. God, so anyway, I'll say this guy's name. He gets out of the car, and this guy, Tony, and this is just, I wasn't here, so this is all just hearsay. Right. Gets out of the car and just looks at the two cars and goes, "Wow, that's fucked up." And just fucking starts running the other way. Just like fucking, like, whatever plans they had that day, he's just like fucking gone. So the only reason why it's, one, that's funny because that's a brilliant idea. Right? You're just like, well, okay, you know, you're gonna, if the cops are here, they're gonna
fight or flight, man, just get out.
So he just bounced. But so the guy who rear-ended him was like, "Oh shit, man, hey man, we should pull over, you know, and let's just, you know, so we can exchange information, that way we don't need to call the cops." So the dude's like, well, yeah, that sounds good. Let's do that. Just totally like, yeah, wow, the car's fucked up.
Yeah.
Like,
good luck.
Yeah, I'm out. Hopefully I'm close-ish to a bus line.
I had a run-in one time when I was living in Kansas City, and I was underage and had been at a party, and I was living with my cousin at the time, and I was driving her car back from Kansas City, Missouri. So it's like state lines because it was Kansas. We lived in Leawood, Kansas, which is about 30 minutes from Kansas City, Missouri, which is where I worked at the Melting Pot. What?
Hey.
And we had been drinking. I was not drunk, but I was underage and had been drinking. So if I had gotten pulled over, like, it would have been over. And I was lost. It was like 2 a.m. And all of a sudden, I'm driving super, super slow. I'm trying to find the freeway. This is also like really before phones had GPS. So I was trying my best to MapQuest. MapQuest. Or I think I had like a Garmin I was trying to fuck with or something
there
like
you
that.
Go. Hell yeah.
And all of a sudden I see the lights and I was like, this is it. This is me going to jail. This is it.
Oh, yeah.
And I get pulled over. Middle of nowhere, nothing is open, and I'm in a car that's not mine. I have a fake ID. I don't even have my real ID on me.
Nice.
I don't know her license or registration or her insurance. Oh, it was like the last name was insane. It was like Winklebottom or something like that. Like it sounded like it was insane last name. Should not have been real. But I got pulled over, and the cop walks up. And he was like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, I am so sorry. I'm from out of town. I'm lost. And all of a sudden I like sober up completely. And I guess that was in my brain, I was like, oh, I talked my way out of that. But if I had been anything other than a white girl in that situation, it would have been over. Like, he didn't ask for my license. He didn't ask for my registration. I told him I was lost. And he was like, oh, where are you trying to get to? And I was like, I need to get back to Leawood. He's like, oh, okay, you just go down this way and, go that way and drive. And I was like, I'm so sorry, this is my cousin's car, I'm trying to get back home. He's like, oh yeah, that sounds great, okay, blah, blah. And he just gave me directions and let me go. Like, I could not believe it worked out that way. Like, I mean, it was just,
you got out of the car, your handgun fell out.
Literally everything was wrong.
You dropped your handgun.
It should not have worked out. But like,
God.
it was absolute, like, that is my white privilege moment. Like, that stands out in my brain of like, that would have only happened to a 19-year-old white girl who was driving like a Lexus. Like, it was a nice car.
Yeah.
That wasn't even mine.
Yeah. I feel that. My buddy that I was talking about earlier and I were driving around one night at like probably 2 a.m.
What was his name again? You didn't say his first and last name.
No.
Winklebottom, right?
Winklebottom.
Yeah.
Referred to as Winklebottom.
Mandelbaum.
And we're both two white guys, and we were driving around and smoking a blunt and going through a stoplight or taking a left at a light, and this cop car flips a bitch, gets right behind us, and we're going into a gas station to get gas.
Feeling.
Oh, I was just literally thinking that feeling is the worst.
It really, but and this is
turning around because of us.
God damn it, it's the worst feeling.
Luckily, we just had the blunt on us. We didn't have anything else.
You just had a smelly car.
Totally, right? So we're pulling into the gas station, and my buddy's driving.
Yeah.
And he's got the blunt in his hand, rolls down the window, and just chucks it right into the garbage can. He just fucking Patrick Ewing that bitch right in there.
The universe was working for you at that moment.
Get out, start pumping the gas, and the cops, come over, start fucking with us. What did this, that, and that? Car smells like weed. They ain't got nothing on us. Mm-hmm. You guys look high. Blah blah blah. I don't have nothing on us. And we're there for about a half an hour.
Yeah.
Better reference would have been
searching the car.
Hakeem Olajuwon. He's from Houston.
Yeah, totally. Searched the car, didn't find anything. Luckily, the garbage can didn't catch on fire.
Yeah.
And they ended up letting us go. But, it's just, fucking, it's that terrifying feeling. I even still get it now, and I don't drive intoxicated.
I haven't gotten pulled over since I was like in my 20s.
Yeah,
I don't think I have gotten pulled over since then.
I got pulled over
not had an interaction.
About a year ago, and now, and obviously this shit is way less nerve-wracking now. Now that I didn't make a habit of drinking and driving, but if we're gonna be completely honest, 0.08 is very low, and it's very easy to be
over that.
Not making excuses by any means, but like by definition, if you have a DUI, you could have had a glass and a half of wine with dinner. And fucking
that's all it
home.
takes.
And, it's very so. But like still, even with weed being legal here for like almost 10 years now, it's still just like I have to remind myself, but I do still freak out.
Yeah,
like put it down.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You know, but that being said, it's like I still, when I choose to have a jazz cigarette in the car, you know, I'm still very much aware of like, okay, let's make sure we air this shit out because
all
it's like,
windows down.
It's still, despite the entire West Coast having a much more tolerant policy, it's still super fucking illegal to smoke it while you're driving.
It stresses me out when I'm in cars where people are smoking weed because my 13-year-old like we're gonna get in trouble.
I guess road trips with me are out of there.
No, I mean it's whatever. But like I just have my knee-jerk nervous reaction of like, oh, we're gonna get caught.
Yep. Yeah, that's one of my probably bad habits that I have is smoking weed and driving.
Yeah.
It's such a strong habit for me. Like smoking cigarettes and driving.
Yeah, I mean, it goes hand in hand for me for sure.
Definitely. When I so all the weird shit that I got myself into in Texas, like all the stuff that the illegal shit we did.
Yeah.
I never had any problems with violence around me. In my immediate vicinity, like there were never guns, there were never like robbings, like any of that.
Like thank God they're all just fun
Texas
stories now, like not
ruckus.
traumatizing, life-altering experiences.
Like there's, and it's funny because not funny, but it's interesting because at this stage in life, I'm going back and kind of like thinking about my previous life and where I've been and where I've grown from, and I do realize that that part of my life did have a very strong impact on me in a very negative way because of the stuff that I put myself through. But in a weird way, also, it helped me learn how to manage people, right? Because I had a team of people working under me when I was at that age, and I treated them really well.
So I got to be the best manager in the world.
And so like I was managing people at the age of 17, drug dealing and shit, right? So there's a good stuff that came out of it. Again, not aggrandizing it, but the reason I bring up the nonviolent side is that, so again, nothing ever happened to me while I was down there in a negative way, violence-wise.
Yeah.
When I moved up here to Washington, my younger brother, Andy, and I met this friend, and we ended up like rooming with him, and he had another friend that was kind of an asshole. But so my friend, my initial friend sold weed also, right? So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I just left this lifestyle down there. I'm seeing him do it on a much smaller scale. I kind of gave him some tips here and there, but I was staying out of his business. Needless to say, he's not very smart about what he was doing. Yeah. The people he brought around, they were.
Sucks when you see shitty people doing shitty shit.
It was terrible, right? And so we actually live not too far from here in this Kirkland area, right? And so my brother Andy lived downstairs in the split level part, and I was upstairs at the end of the hallway. And at this time, my girlfriend was with me, not Monica. I won't say her name, but long time ago girlfriend. And we're the only two people home. It's like a Monday morning, and I wake up to this weird sound. Like I hear this like jolting sound, and so I wake up, and it's like 10 o'clock. So I'm like, what the hell is that noise? And I didn't hear anything else, and I'm talking to my girlfriend. I'm like, hey, did you hear anything? And then I hear Andy. He said something. I can't remember what he said. It wasn't to me, but it was just something in general.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's weird. Andy's okay. So I open the hallway door, and again, I can see I'm at the end of the hallway, so I can see down, and on the left is the stairs. And Andy's being marched up the stairs with a gun to the back of his head. And I'm like, okay, all right. And so then another little squirrely guy runs around him and shoves a gun in my face. And get on the bed, get on the fucking ground, blah, blah, blah. And then sees my girlfriend and runs around her, puts a gun in her face. And I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing here. She is obviously not going to do anything to you. We're the two aggressors. Yeah. You focus on us. You leave the fuck her alone, all right? Like, get in the bathroom. I'm like, okay, get in the bathroom. Totally cool. And so there's three people. And so we're in the bathroom, and Andy and I, again, like, none of this was very close to us, but we've been in situations to where we can stay calm in these understandings and see what's going on. Yeah. And these guys don't want to shoot anybody. If we just do what they want to do, then they're fine. They'll leave, and it's not our stuff they're here for. It's our roommates. He's a fucking idiot. And so my girlfriend at the time was in the bathtub crying, and Andy and I are talking, and we're like, okay, we're not going to do anything. This is just we'll just do what they say. And we hear a taser noise, and I'm like, what's that noise? Why are they tasing? And I hear it again, and it's down by the doorknob. And I'm like, oh my God, they're tasing the doorknob just in case we grab the doorknob, thinking we would be tased. I'm like, this is such childish shit.
I was like,
Such
does that work? I was like,
shit.
does the electricity stay in the door?
It was crazy. And so, okay, so then we hear this loud bang, and my roommate had kept his safe bolted to the bottom of his entertainment center. So they threw that down, ripped off the safe, and all left. And so I called my roommate.
It's a piece of furniture that doesn't exist anymore.
Entertainment center, right? Totally.
I'm like, what the fuck do you both
But I could picture it. I knew what it looked like.
So we hear we hear scuttling and all this shit, and then we hear doors shutting and driving off. And so we're like, okay, I'm assuming everybody's gone. So I called my buddy, my roommate. And I'm like, hey, this just happened. Just so you know, all your shit's gone. I'm sorry, man, but I'm not doing anything about it.
Yeah, no.
And he's like, okay, I know who it was. I'm pretty sure I know who it was. And so we later found out exactly who it was. And there was some retribution that was taken. Not from my side. I didn't have anything to do with it. Again, I didn't want to have business. It's his business. Yeah. But so we call him. We get that taken care of, and I'm outside and I'm smoking cigarettes at the time. And I'm smoking a cigarette in the front yard, like just god damn it, what the fuck, man? How am I moving to Kirkland, fucking Washington, and getting robbed at gunpoint? How did I
survive the streets of Houston?
Exactly. I like when I moved out of my parents' house. I was living in the 1960 Aldine Westfield area of Texas.
That's always how it is,
and it's like nothing happened there, but I have to move to Kirkland and get a gun shoved in my face by a fucking ginger. No offense, Robert. And
dude, man, fuck my wife.
No offense.
Yeah.
Don't give a shit
about you telling about your fucking friend's name or your ex's name or some shit. Like
you just outed him as a ginger.
Edit that shit out. You know what? Fucking leave the mystery. Why you gotta know on fucking Reddit, you dick? Fucking shit.
So I'm out there smoking.
One thing I take away from this fucking podcast. Yeah, what could go unexpected? What's the podcast? Unexpected shit.
Shitty, unexpected shit.
Sorry, man.
Okay.
I'm out there, just thinking about shit. And my neighbor, I can't remember his name, and I didn't know him that well. We'd only seen each other a couple times, but he comes running over and he's got a shotgun in his hand, and I'm like, "What's up, man?" And he's like, "Seems like there was some trouble over here. I
Where
heard
were you
20
minutes ago?"
He was out. He's tending to his weed plant.
Oh my god! Protecting his weed plant.
No, he was back there watering it and shit, and then he heard like all the commotion, and he runs back in and grabs his shotgun and runs over. I'm like, you are just a little bit too late, homie.
Typical stoner, late to the saving of the robbery. Thanks, pal.
It's like, oh man, this is so great.
Oh
yeah. Fucking crazy. So then, so that all happened, and I had to go to work that night, and I was serving at Jillian's, and I walk in, and I'm still kind of shaken up a little bit, and one of the bouncers comes up behind me, and I'm good friends with everybody there, like family friends. Like we were at Red Hook, right? And so no harm, no foul, just love. But this dude walks up behind me named Peanut, and he shoves his hand in my back, and he's like, "Give me all your money, kid." And I'm like, not the right day, dog. Not the right day, man. And I told him what happened. He's like, he gives me a hug. This big dude gives me a hug. He's like, "I'm sorry, man. Like, it's cool, dude, but just, I feel you. Thank you.
The fake rob day.
He's never done that before.
Robberies
like,
that
God
day.
damn it, man. Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy, man.
That's like, I would classify that almost as a near-death experience.
Yeah.
That's
I think by
scary.
definition, if you have a gun pointed at you, that's kind of what that.
Yeah. I only have one near-death experience, and that was whitewater rafting with the hostesses at Red Hook.
Oh.
It was the scariest moment of my life, and I actually thought I was going to fucking die.
Is that the day Ben Pratt got his face dragged on the bottom of the lake or the river?
That might have been a different day, but this is not a good sign for whitewater rafting. So we all like two separate people die on that river all the time. I had no business being there. I have the upper body strength of a toddler, and I was with no shade whatsoever, but it was mostly hostess and waitresses. Like, we had no whitewater outdoors experience. And one of the girls knew the tour guide, and he was still in training, and it was like his first time or his last time before he got certified taking people down the river or whatever. And so I was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds great, no problem." And we all went up there.
It's like the discount fucking skydive instructor.
Exactly. And it started off great, and then I realized that and I'm an excellent swimmer. I was on swim team when I was in Arizona. Like I was a lifeguard. Like, so it just did not worry me because I was like, well, if I fall in, it'll be like a river.
You were smoking like a pack and a half of fucking Marlboro.
It didn't even matter, dude. I'm telling you, I have never... probably more like 2 packs. Marlboro Lights. Go through them quicker. No, P-Funks, because you gotta go through them quicker. But I have never felt so powerless. Like, I truly understood the power of Mother Nature in that moment. Because I am a good swimmer. I am a confident swimmer. And when we hit a rock, it was in the thing was he kept telling us the whole time, he's like, okay, when we get to this part, make sure we cannot go on the right side. If we go on the right side, like, that is bad. And so we were all like, great, we know this ahead of time, no problem. So that comes up. It was like law of attraction. We all were trying not to go there, and we just went straight to the part we were not supposed to go because none of us knew. We had no manpower. It was like 6, women that just were not prepared for that whatsoever.
You're setting Title IX back a little bit.
As I'm saying that, I realize that, but like, all of us were weed smokers. We are working at a brewery. Women are weaker than men. That's all I'm saying. I'm just kidding. It might have helped if we had a Kevin Hackett on the boat. Is all I'm saying. All I'm saying. If I had been prepared, maybe different. That was my weakest point. Oh my god. He would have literally stopped the boat in mid-track.
Would have pulled a tree down, made a trip down.
He would have made a bridge for us from the water.
Using Pythagorean theorem.
But we hit this, like, it was a dip in the water. We hit this rock, and we just go straight up over. The boat comes down, like, everything that was like, hey, if this happens, this is really bad, and all of those things happened. So we hit that spot that we weren't supposed to hit. The boat flipped on top of all of us, which is bad.
That's the worst
thing that could happen, right? And
now you're trapped underneath the boat.
So now I'm trapped underneath the boat, and it is the most whitewater rapid part of the ride that we are in. So we are in a full on.
By the ride, do you mean the?
The attraction, right? Like the log ride at Disneyland. That's what it was like.
Just the bunny was.
I literally call it the ride because I had zero control of what was happening. I was on a fucking ride. Like, at the beginning, I was like, oh no, this is the easy part. This is gonna be bad, you guys. And Rachel Rosen's like, oh, it's gonna be great.
Rachel Rosen. Yes.
Shout out Rachel Rosen.
Love Rachel Rosen.
Yeah, it was like Ashley and Rachel and god damn it. I think Jessica might have been on there at some point, but anyway, so the boat is on top of me. I can't get out from under the boat. And I have no control over what my body's doing. So I remember them telling us, like, you will never be able to swim your way out. You have to just lift your feet up. Like, you have to get on your back and put your feet up so you float, and then you just ride it out. Okay. Which goes against every natural instinct when you're in that situation. Yep. So I was like, okay, feet up. I grabbed put my arms on my life jacket, had my little helmet or whatever, and I just went for the road, or went down the ride again. And I see all of them getting picked up by the boats. Okay. I am in the only part where no one can get to me. Shit. And I'm what they call in a dishwasher. So I'm in a suction spiral whirlpool where it keeps, I can't get out of the loop. So I'm just getting sucked down, and then I get spit back out, and then I get sucked down a little longer each time. Wow. And I was like, this is it. Like, I'm running out of air. Like, and it's ice cold water too. So like, you can't catch your breath. Damn. And just at the right moment, there was a guy that came by with a kayak, and it just got me at the literal last breath that I had. The timing, he grabbed my jacket and was able to get me out of that little whirlpool enough so I could just ride regular rapids down to the boat. And I get down to the boat, and I'm just like can't catch my breath. And they pull me up and I'm like seeing dots and I feel like I'm hallucinating. and the tour guide is trying to make sure we have because there was maybe 6 or 8 of us that were in that boat. And so he's trying to head count of like who was what and who was where. And we finally got everyone. And he was like, okay, who was in the dishwasher? And I raised my hand. He's like, I am not going to lie. I was prepared to lose you. Like I literally thought we were going to lose you. And I was like, this is not what you say to me at this moment.
Nope.
But we still have 20 more minutes left of this fucking ride.
I was prepared to lose
well,
you.
He was like, I was coming to terms, like, because none of us could get to him. Like,
right,
he literally said, I will never forget that moment. He's like, he goes, I was coming to terms with the fact that we had lost you. Like, and I was like, well, this was a fun weekend. Thank you, Rachel, for inviting me up to the Snoqualmie River. But it first and last time I will ever do whitewater rafting.
Okay.
Unless I have Kevin Hackett with me.
Yeah.
Kevin Hackett wouldn't let that
Damn.
happen.
Yeah, I've never done the whitewater rafting.
Yeah.
It's fun.
You have no control. You have absolutely no control.
Man, yeah, you're at the mercy of nature.
You are, absolutely.
Have you seen that documentary, The River Wild, with Helen Hunt? Was that Helen Hunt?
I'm sorry. Excuse me. The River Wild was not a documentary. It was the best action movie with Meryl fucking Streep and Kevin Bacon.
Fucking Meryl
and that was the
Streep.
reason why I was so excited to do it, because I fucking love that movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, if Meryl can do it, I can do it. Turns out I can't.
He writes the hand signals,
because
the
because
ASL,
their deaf
the
mom.
K-wall.
That's how they're able to get away.
Oh, shit.
Oh, and
Spoiler
I
alert
was more
for that
like
94 smash.
the nerdy dad that couldn't keep couldn't swim. Like, I was that character on that show.
Wild.
The River Wild. Great flick.
Not a documentary, and it was
God.
But
not Helen
I
Hunt.
don't go in the ocean for the same reason, because every time I've gone into the ocean has spit me out in a
scary.
very aggressive way.
It's
Like,
holy shit.
Scary, man.
I went boogie boarding with like my little 8-year-old cousin at the
Got swept
time,
up
and I was
in
like,
that
well,
gnar.
she can do it. I use that
Kids don't
excuse a
even know
lot,
that
and
they
maybe I
almost
should
die all
stop.
the time.
Totally.
Oh yeah, no fear. And so I was like, well, okay, I'll just stick by her. And the wave picked me up, and it was so much water that the sand was underneath. So like the water completely, all of it drew back, and it was me in the wave, and I could just see sand at the bottom, and it just slammed me down. And I was like, okay, this is my sign to just stay the fuck out. Like, heard and delivered. Thank you, universe.
Damn.
So now I have that with Whitewater Rapids. Like, I respect the fuck out of running water. I have no
Holy
power.
shit. I have that with taxi cabs.
Do you have respect for taxi cabs?
Yeah, well,
Yellow ones
that
don't stop.
never gonna go into a taxi cab again kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's best if I just take Ubers. Well, Uber wasn't even around at the time, but
Yeah.
so back in early mid 2000s, I had gotten my second DUI, second DUI. I think.
You never forget your
Hey,
second.
I think it was my
Second.
second, right? And there no dramas around it. It was like a .09. Again, I did the wrong thing.
They high five you when it's a .09.
Yeah, they're like, hey, all right. No
Just for our
accident, not speeding.
numbers.
Just you look suspicious, so we pulled you over and we win.
Officer
We win the game
Bacon,
today.
Officer Bacon.
Bacon, exactly, Officer Bacon. He said it's bacon. I'm like, oh, I was trying to give it to him.
Bacon.
His name was Bacon. So I had to start taking taxis, and I worked at Jillian's, like I said earlier, and I would get off work at like 3:30, 4 in the morning, and get taxis home, and so that happened for like maybe 2 weeks, and I was getting a ride home one day, and the guy that picked me up, nobody's ever really talkative that time of night,
Yeah.
and I lived in Shoreline, so it's about a 40 minute drive. Dead ass quiet. Nobody's on the road. This guy's driving. I see him swerve, like wave a couple times, but seems like he's doing all right. I'm like keeping an eye on him. So we get to my street in Shoreline, and I start to see like that drastic swerve to the left. Like I've lost control of the wheel, and I'm like, hey dude, and he like grabs it, and I'm like, okay. And then and again he just lets go of the wheel, and he fell asleep, and we just careened over into a car and hit the back of this car, going probably like 25, 30.
I mean,
But go to a dead stop. And I'm like, fuck this, man. Good luck dealing with this. I'm 4 houses
outta
down
here.
from
Yeah,
my
I'm
house.
walking.
I'm going home.
It's a
And
free
I'm not,
ride for me,
Totally,
though. Yeah.
right? Good luck with your shit, right? So that happened. And then...
You go, wow, this is fucked up.
Bye.
Well, I was like, I'm
Good
not
luck.
fucking dealing with this shit, man.
You
You know?
channeled your any Tony.
And then, but then I met this guy driving home one day. Again, similar scenario, just no accident involved this time. Named Chase, and he was a late night cab driver, and he was always looking for a fare. And we talked. He's great. He smoked weed with me on the way home. He's a really nice
Dope.
guy. And so he ended up becoming almost like my personal cab driver.
Oh.
And he would wait for me in the mornings and pick me up when I had to, early morning shifts. He knew what
had
days
your
those
own
were.
private driver.
Totally, and he would wait for me because it was a regular fare for him.
Right.
He wasn't giving me discounts
And
at
it's
all.
like an easy drive. Probably.
Exactly. Yeah. He knew me. I knew him. He knew where I was going. It
Yep.
was like easy money for him. Good ride for me. So one day we're coming home, and this is by no fault of his by any means, but we're coming home on I-5 going south, and there's like this kind of blind turn going out and around to the right, and we're having a chit chat, and I'm in the back seat, and there's debris in the middle of the road, middle of our lane. So he swerves to miss that, and then that next lane has more debris. Like, fuck. And we hit that, and it was like an axle of a car. So it turned out a car had just gotten in an accident, and just the driver ran off. But the smatterings of the car
probably
were
your
all
last
over the
cab
freeway.
driver.
It totally. Right. And so we hit the axle, and we start 360ing in the middle of I-5. And it's 4 a.m. There's nobody on the road, so it's very not safe, but it's not like super dangerous. So I go to grab the door to hold on because we're 360ing, and then I grab the door handle.
No!
And the door flies open, and I'm buckled in, but I'm like watching the freeway go, and I'm like, ah! Chase is like, shut the door, and I'm like, I'm fucking trying. And then we slam into the center guardrail, and the door comes flying shut, and we're facing the opposite direction now. It's like, holy shit, you're okay? Okay, I'm okay. Okay, cool. Let's get out of the car and just walk over because on the shoulder. And so we go over there and we're waiting for the cops to show up. And we're by the car that had caused the accident in the first place. The car somebody had wrecked and then ran off. And so we're standing over there smoking cigarettes, and the cop rolls up, and she was really, really nice. She's like, okay, so what happened? We're like, okay, so this happened. And the cop's like, okay, so you were driving the taxi cab to Chase, and he's like, yeah. And she's like, okay, and you were driving that car? And I'm like, nope.
Passenger.
I'm the passenger. I'm his passenger. I have nothing to do with that car over there.
Yeah.
Didn't open
I
the
just
door.
need a fucking
just
ride,
held
man.
on.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Jesus
You're like,
fucking
what
Christ,
is
man.
car? What is car?
Hell no. The cop gave me a ride home. Chase got his car towed. But that was like, and I'm like, and I still kept in touch with Chase, but after that I was like, nah, I'll find rides in a different way. I'm not meant to be in taxi cabs for some reason.
So I feel like there are so many times the universe gives me signs like that where I just am like, I hear you loud and clear.
Did you ever
Thank
watch
you.
Taxi Cab Confessions?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, totally. I remember those.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, bona fide.
Do you have any near-death experiences, Robin?
Near death? I mean, that's...
Or just scary situations?
It was scary shit, but I mean, a lot of that shit's all part of the rush. I mean, it's like, yeah, skydiving would be that, but it's like, that's very much, you find yourself
voluntary
in that
near death.
I wouldn't say, I think a lot of it's just, honestly, a lot of the stupid, like, illicit shit I was doing in high school, I think I would have been closer to getting very, 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 like, I got sick a couple of times. I don't think I realized how maybe sick I was at some of these times.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that the other day before we had this prompt. I'm like,
thank God for
you.
you.
Remember that time? Yeah, I'm like, wow, I don't think I'd be able to rebound the way I did when I was like 15.
Yeah, most definitely.
But again, I think it was most of the shit, and, this is probably the thing with a lot of stuff, is that it was a lot of cause and effect, and it was most of the time a lot of these extreme examples when I was kind of doing shitty things, nefarious things I shouldn't have been doing.
Yeah.
I mean, many of these, very mild, but smoking ganja and shit like that, but it's just like, none of this shit happens to me now.
Right.
Doing it, playing Sega. I don't know Sega, but I'm using that as for illustrative purposes only.
Yeah. Well, there's that though, but I mean,
the law of attraction type thing of like, yeah.
The only times I had run-ins with the cops is when I was like, trying to
avoid them,
trying to smoke weed in like parks and shit.
Right.
Doing shit I shouldn't have been doing. Shit I don't do now.
Right.
And I get that, but there's like, so I had a job working at Jillian, as I said earlier, and it was a nightclub, and I can honestly say I never was in a fight, a serious fight in my entire life till I started working at Jillian's, and I can tell you how many fights I've been in now. So, like, that was my job.
Yeah.
We don't expect our jobs to be involved with that kind of stuff. And when I first started working there, it wasn't that. If I got a job in a place like that, knowing that that was what I would expect, and that was something I would get, I was getting myself into, but it evolved into that.
Yeah.
And I mean, into a point to where it wasn't just like, oh, little barroom brawls and stuff here and there, to like just all out clear the fucking 1,000-person club fights, I remember one night we were, I felt so bad. We were training our new general manager. And so I was managing at the time for this one. and we did, on weekends we had DJs and stuff, so we'd pack out, we'd have like 1,000 people in there. Video games, pool, all the stuff. So lots of projectiles, lots of things to throw, lots of things to hit people with. There's pool cues. Yep. Papa shots. Yeah. Basketballs thrown sometimes. Pool balls were always a fun one. Pint glasses. But we were diffusing a situation one night, and so we were training a general manager. Her name was Allie. She, I can say her name. She's since passed, but not because of this. She came from Disney. Property on Disney, so very fine dining, very Disney, right? Yeah. It's fucking Disney, it's magical. And she came to Jillian's, this fucking crazy ass nightclub, right? And so it was one of her first closing nights on a Saturday night, and just shit was going sideways, and I was trying to keep her out of this. I'm like, let me handle this with the security staff. We had security staff. It wasn't just me. We have plenty of security, and shit was going sideways with this group of gentlemen that were in there, and they were beefing with another group of gentlemen, and it was very, very one-sided with this thing.
Beefing is when you have an argument.
Argument, yes. And so our security team, my co-manager Lowell at the time, and the management or the security team went up, and we kind of corralled this group of gentlemen out, and it was definitely standoffish, right? We were standing off with them. We just would not let them get between us. Like, we were corralling them towards the door, more or less, right?
Yeah.
We finally get them outside, and unfortunately, we got them outside to the side that their car was on. And so they start going for their car, trunks open, shit like that. And we're like, what the fuck are they going for? And our head of security always parks right in front of the front door, and he popped his trunk, and he has SWAT team mace. And SWAT team mace is like almost like a 2-foot canister of mace. It's gigantic.
It looks like a fire extinguisher.
Totally, yeah. Right? And so it was like, again, it was a standoff, right? And so we're between the door of the club and the guys are right by their trunks. And the head of security looks at me like, what the fuck am I going to do? And I'm like, do it. Yeah. Hit him. And he just go... And just fucking maced him, right? SWAT team maced him. Ugh. All of them went down, right? We go running in the club, and it's right when we open the door, the cloud of mace gets sucked in the entire 1,000-person club, right?
Oh, no.
Everybody hits the ground within 2 minutes. It gets sucked into the ventilation system, maces throughout the entire club, right?
Oh, my God.
And it was like 1-ish, maybe 12:45, so it's close to last call.
Yeah.
Right? And Allie, the GM, comes out to see what's going on. And she has asthma. Didn't realize that until that just happened, right? I was
like, oh my God.
And so she has an asthma attack. And so now on top of this, and we're still making sure that these guys don't get back in. We're locking doors. We're, doing what we need to do. Yeah. Still trying to attend to 1,000 people that are now
trying to act like this didn't happen.
Fuck, man. And so, but I got to grab Allie and take her into the walk-in because cool air neutralizes mace, and it wasn't a direct hit; it was just respiratory. Yeah. So, get her in the walk-in, sit her on fucking pickles, a pickle 5-gallon bucket, and like, you stay in here until I come get you. I'm sorry, this is just has to be this way right now. And so we get everybody like calm down. We close the club early. We'll just get everybody the fuck out. And while we're doing that car is still just right there, and we're just trying to monitor the windows and shit. And all of a sudden, like, all the staff are like at the windows looking at this car, and I'm like, "What the fuck are y'all doing? We think this car might have weapons in it, and y'all are by a fucking open picture window that's 20 feet wide. Ugh. What are you hiding behind? Get the fuck away from the windows,
Use your brains.
This isn't looky-see. Look at that. Oh, look, where this is dangerous. No, this isn't TV. This is real fucking life.
Yeah.
Like, all right, this is your place of work. I get it, but like, respect the violence that could potentially happen. Go somewhere else. Go behind a wall of some sort.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy. Ugh. Yeah, crazy stuff. Luckily, nothing happened. They got in their cars. They left. All that bullshit. Damn. Blah blah blah. But that's just one of many things that happened at that place. Yeah. Like, it was crazy. Like, we actually. Oh, God damn it. We had an all-out brawl one time because somebody stepped on somebody else's shoe.
Oh.
And it was like a full
Was
club.
it a heel on a bare foot? Because that
it
is
was
fighting.
a Nike on a Nike.
Oh.
And we
that's
watched
even
it. We
worse.
watched it happen. So on the dance floor, was down in the front side of the club, and we had the upstairs had it stopped about 20 feet from the full end of the building, so it was like a balcony almost. You could look over the dance club. And we'd always stand up there with the security team and just basically watch. You can see a lot of what's going on, violence potentially before it happens and all this shit.
Right.
So we were up there kind of doing that stuff, and there's always tension. There was always tension in the club on the weekends because it was, one of the few
bad vibes place.
It really
man.
was. It got to that point, and there ended up being shootings there after we left. Luckily, there wasn't any while we were there, but so we were watching this from up top, and we were, watching these two groups of guys, and there's women involved and people trying to dance with the other women and not feeling it and all this shit. So, we're monitoring all that. And we kind of actually, it was kind of funny because we get lost. There's a lot of stereotypes that you can, see in these groups. And one of my favorite is awkward white guy dancing through club. And he's got the drinks above his head, and he's like trying to dance through.
Just scooting through, Barbara.
It's one of my favorite ones, right? And so we're like watching that, laughing at him, and then all of a sudden, shoe gets stepped on, punches get thrown, and pretty much 500 people just start fucking fighting. And so we got trained with quote unquote trained with all this stuff. So we disperse, we get people out front door, we get people out back door, we shut the doors, we lock the place, and we call it good, right? And that's what we've done before in the past, and it's worked. This time it didn't work. They all met each other outside, and it started again. And so it literally, the entire side of Lake Union turned into a fight. And we're all standing there at the upstairs by the windows.
Because at that point, it's no longer your.
Well, theoretically.
That's what I'm saying. Where does that extend to?
Yeah.
If that's your responsibility. Still.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're up there, and we kind of have a bird's eye view of just basically watching the Rome burn, more or less. Fights and all the shit, and then the cops show up, and we're like, okay, so we're just watching now, and we're watching people get tased and people dropping like flies and fights and all this shit. It was very dramatic, very chaotic. We thought it was done after that, and that next, I guess that was a Monday. The next Monday, we get a call from the police, the chief police, and said, okay, you guys fucked up pretty good. We need all of y'all to come down to the police precinct. All the management team need to come down to the police precinct. We need to have a talk with y'all. I'm like, oh, okay. So management team plus our regional manager go down to the police precinct, and they sit us down in the room, and they showed us the video. And they said, okay, we want to show you the video of the first responding officer, and just so you can see the melee that was going on. And we're like, okay, fuck, all right. And so the officer that first pulled up, so Jillian's was kind of like a triangle on Westlake, right? And so there's this pointed end, and then it kind of veers off, but you can get into it from the front side. And so the first car that pulled up from the front side, so you could see the front of Jillian's, the street of Westlake, crosswalk over into the park, and so car pulls up, you see the cop run off, and just streams of people,
Yeah.
fight, people, and you see, and then it kind of goes, quiet for a little bit, and then two women and a guy were trying to kind of trotting across the street, not running but not walking, and then another guy comes in from out of screen from behind him and just punches the guy in the back of the head, and the guy just crumbles in the middle of Westlake.
Damn.
And the two girls run off. And we're like, holy fuck, man, that was intense. And so then the girls come back into screen, and they try to grab him to get him out. So one girl grabs his feet, and the other girl grabs him behind the shoulders, and they pick him up, and the girl behind the shoulders dropped him back on his head.
Oh.
And my buddy Lul is with me, and I'm kind of chuckling, and I don't mean to be callous with this, but my buddy Lul was next to me, and he's I love Lul. Big shout out to Lul Shed. I love him to death, but he's a very cynical man, and he's got a very dark sense of humor. So he starts chuckling, and I'm like, and at that time I could see the humor in that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, they fucking dropped that kid on his head. And then they tried to pick him up again, and then dropped him again, and then finally they just each grabbed the leg and they dragged him off, or an arm, and they dragged him off.
Yeah.
And then the cop stopped, the chief police stopped the thing, and he goes, we don't even know if that kid's okay. And Lul leans over to me. He goes, "There's no fucking way he's okay. Those girls dropped him on his head twice."
After he got knocked out. There's definitely no way.
And but we got a lecture from the chief of police about how much money that cost the city from all the paramedics and everybody.
What were you supposed to do different? Like break it down before it even happened, kind of a thing.
More or less, yeah. At that point in time, we didn't have the full security team that we did end up having, so we ended up bringing in outside security and stuff like that, pat down stuff. Just had to tighten up.
Because when it gets to that point, like all you can do is just like.
I mean, I'm not going in there and breaking up fights. I'm like,
can't.
I mean, I did, but
people, like
right,
that's just not gonna do anything at that point. Yeah, that's nuts.
I mean, the only time that we, as the staff, would get violent was to break up a fight or to save a fellow staff member from getting into a fight.
Yeah.
And that happened a lot too, where we would go to break up fights and then we would become the fight,
right.
And we would become it's like I'm getting now punched in the back of the head for now trying to break up these two women from fighting. And then like now you have a bear paw of a hand grabbing this guy from the back of the head and throwing him out by his face. And like, well, now you've met less. Gotcha. All right. Well, I mean, we've, do you guys want to go anymore? I mean, there's a lot of.
I think we're good. I mean, we could always maybe touch on this next week.
All right. Well, I think the moral of the story is like we're going to find our way into fucked up situations, but stay calm. You'll find your way out.
Yeah. And it may or may not be a funny story later.
You could find yourself in a fucked up situation.
Don't go whitewater rafting. If you take nothing else from this situation, do not go whitewater rafting. That's the takeaway. Because they will be prepared to lose you.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Be prepared to be lost. See you next week.